So I tell people, look, you don't have to believe in the kind of thing I believe in, but you got to find something. You got to get your radar up for spiritual experiences. And once you start paying attention to that in your day-to-day life, it's amazing how things pop up.
I like to suggest people pray and meditate the way they drank and used. Just try stuff and see where you end up.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
When the static of life fills your brain and the world seems a little too insane, just twist that dial, don't hesitate. There's a haven where good vibes await. Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk and music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Well, greetings one and all, and welcome to another episode of the world's original and oldest recovery talk and recovery music radio station and podcast, KHLT Recovery Broadcasting, and the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. I am your host, recovered alcoholic, the Monty Man, with a very unique show this week, a very special Friday edition, coming to you from Sedona and Albany, Oregon, both. I think you're going to enjoy this show. It's going to be a little different than what you're used to, but that's a good thing. So put on your seatbelt for another episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show.
Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk and music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard, my friends. Our email address is take12radio@comcast.net. Our website is take12radio.com. You can get there by typing in the word 12 or the number, either one, and we encourage you to do so. Listen, many individuals today experience the benefits of the meditation technique known as transcendental meditation. We do hear a lot about famous folks, business tycoons, athletes, musicians, scientists, and talk show hosts who do TM. And it appears that was also a practice of Alcoholics Anonymous co-founder Bill Wilson. Well, my guest is the producer of the film Bill W. Conscious Contact, a documentary that examines the effect and impact of Bill Wilson's white light experience that some might say kicked off the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. Jay Stennett, welcome to Take 12 Recovery Radio, my friend.
Well, Monty Man, what a joy to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now you're in Sedona, and I, if I were to guess where you were and didn't know, just by the nature of the room you're in, I would say you were in Arizona.
Right.
And
yes.
I would be correct. Yeah. So, just so people know, okay, Arizona, Sedona particularly, is really the hub for a lot of spirituality, true?
Yeah. I like to say that I live in the fourth dimension. I visit the fifth, and I'm here to entertain people who are locked in the third.
Yeah, I read that. I like that. That is very good. Well, listen, tell us a little bit about Jay Stennett before we get into this documentary, which we're going to be spending the bulk of our time on.
Well, what do you mean by living in the fourth dimension? Well, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with the Beverage Fellowship for 46 years now. And one of the things that I was graced with was the inculcation into meditation right off the bat. There was a group in our neighborhood, the 11-step group, that's been going since 1948, and
Wow.
they have a whole experience. And so meditation was not viewed as extra credit in AA in the neighborhood that I involved. Personally, I got lit up in the late '60s and have been a spiritual seeker all of my life, actually. But I got involved with things before they were phenomenon based, when they were more about being looking into the nature of the soul and the individual and its relationship with its environment. And so I've been, I got a little lost and hit the wall when I was 24 years old in 1979, and landed in Manhattan Beach, California at a meeting, and I was not thrilled. In fact, I thought it was the lamest thing that could ever happen to anyone. And
Yeah.
but here I am, 24. I hit the lottery. I was born male, Caucasian, in California. And you can't hit any longer odds than that. And with all that grace, the best I could do was end up in a meeting of AA. Oh,
Yeah, right.
how awful. So I, for some reason, I decided that I'd buy the package, and
Yeah.
I did, and I've had an amazing experience with it. So that's kind of who I am, and my spirit congealed in reading spiritual literature in the '60s and early '70s. And then it's flowered in this environment of AA. I was the short kid in school, so I'm not very athletic. And my parents gave me the love of books, and history was my jam. And so I come into AA, I come into the fellowship, and I end up getting Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, and Not God. It's the other books.
Right.
And that lit me up. In fact, you read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, and you realize that what my sponsor told me was true. When I was 27 days sober, I'd already done my first inventory and all that stuff, and my sponsor had me out doing the ninth step. And first guy asked me to sponsor him, and he said, so I called my guy up and I say, hey, what do I say? And he says, Jay, if they're sick, you say yes. Really? He said, if they're sick enough to ask you for help, Stennett, you can't hurt them.
What do I say? You say yes.
And if you read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, you'll know that all the different stuff they were doing to each other, you can't hurt them. So
Yeah, do tell. Yeah.
history has informed my whole life, and I enjoy it greatly. And so I started, during the late '80s, what occurred to me, or what I witnessed, is there were people who were, what I would say, weaponizing the big book.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
They were walking around, trying to make sure that you understood why there was this comma there. and
Yeah.
that's not what the deal is.
Right.
And it's very simple and direct. And so anyway, one of the things that I wanted to do always was to be of maximum service. So I did a very, very deep dive, and one of these days maybe we'll have a separate conversation about a film that I was involved in, and with my involvement in a movement called Initiatives of Change, which is, when I joined it, it was called Moral Rearmament, and that was the name that the Oxford group took after 1939. And doing this research on Wilson and Bookman at Stepping Stones one day, and I fell in love with Bill Wilson in a way that I never had before. And I've been privileged now to read probably 4,000 of his letters, so I feel like I know the coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from that, I found out that this guy never once told people what to do. Blew my mind. In fact, there's a letter I got where I got to read where he said the steps should be taken in any order and at any time an individual and their God dictates. Well, if a guy said that in my home group, I'd kick him out.
Oh man, you'd be out of your ear.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
the thing about Bill Wilson that just constantly makes me fall in love with him is, there's a lot of people out there that have negative things to say about him, right? They just, they throw the gauntlet at him. I was a womanizer and he was a shyster and he was this, he was that, the other thing. And I'm always quick to remind him, yeah, but he was God's shyster, I guess, if you want to say that. I mean, look, we needed Bill Wilson. We need each other. And, put the sword down, dude. Because I don't know about you, buddy, but when I pick up the sword and I want to defend something, my God says, look, I'll just put it back on the guy's ear you took it off of. So you chill out. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing about that, it's like I was just giving a talk the other day, or actually I had shown the film to a group of people, and the first question I got was about Bill being a womanizer, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Why do they do that? Why is that the first thing that comes up?
Well, it's very interesting. You talk to any younger person about John Fitzgerald Kennedy. What's the first thing they throw?
There you go again. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's materialism's way of attacking the spirit. Bill was a remarkable individual, and we don't have any documentation. It's like we don't have, like the Tudors used to hold up the sheets, show what was going on. We don't got any of that, number one. Number two, this film actually does give a little credit to one of his dearest friends, his closest associates. I like to call her his muse in the second half of his life, or the last quarter of his life, Helen Wynne. Now,
which there were rumors flying around there, right?
Right, but see, the thing is that this was back when America was great. Now, I don't know if you know the definition of when America was great was women were doing all the work. and she and his friend Tom Powers, I mean, they put together the basic group. They did all kinds of work with niacin, vitamin C. I mean, they were the intellectual milieu that Wilson was involved with was amazing, and in the fellowships, people don't give him credit. And one thing, they talk about Helen being a mistress.
Right.
Now, I want you to. I'm a feminist, so the first time I heard that, it kind of raised my hair a little bit. But then I made the mistake of looking up the word.
Uh-oh.
It is a long-term love affair known by all three parties.
Interesting.
Now, let's get completely off of this, or not off of this for a second. Let's talk about, oh, this is great. One of my greatest friends is William Shaver, closest buddy.
Writing the big book, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
His wife dropped this on me 2 days ago. Every marriage is a mystery.
I would say amen to that.
Every marriage is a mystery. Now, doesn't matter what you may think or how you want to shape Wilson, Bill, Lois, or Helen.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a recording from 1961. So it's the 20, or no, it's not. It's 1959. So it's the 25th anniversary of Bill's sobriety.
Okay.
He'd gone on a tour all over the United States doing talks and doing this and that and another thing. It ends up in December. They're in Vermont, right? Hometown boy coming home.
Yeah.
The deal. Who are the speakers? First speaker's Helen Wynne. Second speaker's Lois Wilson. Third one's Bill. Now, I don't know what it is that you want to, how you want to frame other people's relationships. It's not my, it's not my affair. If you want to go back into, if you want to go into my present, I'm not going to fit many people's ideas of what a person should be. Frankly, I don't care. But here's a fun thing. There the three of these individuals are at one of the most important talks of Wilson's life, and all three of them are there. Now, whatever the relationship was, what we're trying to do with it, throw it away.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. It's there. Now, let me tell you, Monty, here I'm going to give you a good one. Helen gets up, and in her talk, she says, in the beginning, she goes, when I was newly sober, I had a nightmare. And the nightmare was this. I was talking at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Bill Wilson was in the audience. Now, here I am, and I'm talking in front of Bill and Lois. She says, this is a double indemnity. For which there is no insurance. And of course, you get that. You get the
yeah, that's great.
But I mean, so come on.
Yeah, well, it stands to reason, Jay. It stands to I mean, we know this. Whenever you have something positive and good and powerful and energetic, there's always an enemy of our soul, if you will, that wants to come in and throw a wrench in the spokes and get our focus off of the healthy and onto the unhealthy. And doggone it, I don't have time for that. I mean, life's too short. So when people say these things about Bill, I just go, next. Come on.
Yeah.
But you know. So
Monty, if we want to get into sin, just so you know up front, want to know about Jay Stennett, my favorite is sins of commission.
Ah.
It's not going to be because I was avoiding something.
Oh my goodness sakes. So I want to refer to this several times during the interview. How can people, before we even get into it really, how can people view this documentary?
Thank you. So, Bill W. ConsciousContact.com. That's Bill W. ConsciousContact.com. And it's posted on the Vimeo platform. So what you can do is for $7.99, you buy it, and then it stays on that platform, and that's where you watch it from. Or you can gift it to people, and if you want to, you can. They've got a wonderful feature called "Pay What You Want," because that way people can toss a little more there. Because I bet the house on this, and hopefully it'll get recovered.
I always laugh at people that say, well, you can't charge for this or you can't charge for that in recovery. I say, listen, Things cost money. They just do. You have no problem paying to go to the World Convention. Pony up $7-8 and get the film. BillWConsciousContact.com. Please make a note of it, and then we'll refer to it again
Thank you.
throughout the show. Now, you make a statement I thought was very interesting. You call Alcoholics Anonymous an experiment. What do you mean by that?
Well, okay, so just for a second, close your eyes.
Okay.
Let's go back 95 years. If you got alcoholism, it's a death sentence.
Yes.
Literally. Okay. You know, your grandparents, their folks, if they had a problem with the drink, that was just it. It was a problem with the drink. So now something happens. There's this experience that happens at Towns Hospital, and from that, we've got a methodology that was developed that we can walk free in the world if we have this incredibly pernicious malady. Now, what was that, number one? And number two, this methodology is extraordinarily fragile because people want the fellowships to be a normal organization. They want it to be something where somebody can be sent somewhere. I mean, meditate upon this if you need something to meditate upon. There are no referrals from Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no place where you go, they sent me. No,
Right.
it's the catch-all of all of the of anything. And so when everybody's done with you, where do you end up? You end up with me and us. But what is it that you really end up with? You end up with a spiritual experiment. One of the great things about Wilson is, and Frank Bookman, was that they said, don't think about this. Just do it and report what happens. But you got to do it. See, people, Alcoholics Anonymous that I came into was they didn't care how you felt.
Right.
They'd say, "Oh, I'll buy you. You want a drink? I'll buy you a drink."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I was told that. Yeah.
But the thing is that, see, we were all self-diagnosed,
Right.
and so you can't look down on people that from the time they're 12 years old are being told to go to a 12-step fellowship, not wanting to buy in or do what, because they think that it's something that they're being sent to get better. So the reason I call it a spiritual experiment is that it's only been around for a very, very short period of time. Mm-hmm. And the fruits are in the people that have actually done it, as opposed to all the other, ways that people get exposed to it. And so the methodology is actually the experiment.
Right. Yeah, I get it. The methodology is the experiment. That is good. We're going to take a short break. We're talking to our guest, Jay Stennett. He's the producer of the documentary Build W Conscious Contact. The website is buildwconsciouscontact.com. We'll be back right after this. I got many more questions for our guests. Don't go away. You don't want to miss this. Listen to this, and we'll be right back.
Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping America's heroes ever since. People who put their lives on the line for our country and our communities need your help now more than ever. Join Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good in their honor. Never forget 9/11 or the sacrifices of this country's heroes and their families. Show your support. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, JAYSTINNETT.org.
Hey, it's the Monty Man. As a board-certified recovery mentor and educator, it has been my privilege to read and review some of the most influential pieces of literature on the topic of recovery. But one such book stands tall above the rest. The book, 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety, by our good friend and Take 12 Recovery Radio contributor, Dr. Alan Berger. If you've ever felt stuck in your recovery, stagnant, or just plain bored, I want you to get a copy of this amazing book. It has raised my recovery to new heights, and it is sure to do the same for you. To receive an autographed copy of 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety, visit abphd.com. This book is also available on Amazon.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com. Recovery talk and positive music.
I love me some jazz, baby. Thank you, Chris. You can check out workshops that Chris has co-hosted with me by going to Take12Radio.com and clicking on the Recovery Workshops banner. You will also find workshops with Dr. Berger and myself as well. All right, my special guest on this special Friday edition of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show is Jay Stennett. He's the producer of the new documentary, Bill W. Constant Contact. The website is billwconstantcontact.com.
Constant Contact's what you use. Conscious Contact is the name of the film. Bill W. Conscious Contact.
Conscious. Not I say it right.
Yeah, you said Constant Contact.
Not Constant Contact. That's an email server.
Yes.
Conscious Contact. BillWConsciousContact.com. So don't make the same mistake I did, listeners. You won't find it. All right. So in this documentary, well, first of all, let me just congratulate you. I was talking to my good friend Chris the other day, and I said, have you seen this? He said, yes. And I said, the photography is top shelf. The sound quality is top shelf. The interviews are top of the line. I mean, the thing is just put together so well. It's not too long. It's not too short. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I want to say congratulations. And the content is so important. Now I got to say, this is a little bit of an unusual area for Take 12 Recovery Radio. We are a faith-based recovery radio station and podcast and studio. We make no bones about the fact that we are Christian-owned and operated, which sometimes my Christian brothers and sisters get rubbed a little the wrong way when I venture out a little beyond or past what they would consider maybe safe borders, if that makes any sense. But I do it anyway because I like being a man of controversy. I like stirring the pot a little bit, especially when it's what I think is an important enough thing to do. I'm going to refer to that again during the interview, but I just want to say congratulations. I wholeheartedly support the film. Thank you so much. Your chat with Sally Corbett Turco, the executive director of Stepping Stones, the Stepping Stones Foundation, excellent. William Shaber, the author of Writing the Big Book, excellent. And you spent a great deal of time with Lincoln Norton. Now, if that name isn't familiar to our listeners, you're going to find out why here. I'm going to play a sound clip, and then Jay, I'll let you come in and kind of introduce who he is and kind of,
Sure,
build on this sound clip. So here is Lincoln Norton speaking with Jay Stennett on something very interesting that may be out of bounds for some of you. Yeah, suck it up, Buttercup. Listen to this.
My memory is December 10th or 11th of 1969. I remember there was snow patches, snow on the ground, and I went into this little warm living room. It was in a small, very comfortable house, and it was a comfortable group. It was very friendly, family-like. It wasn't tense. I think there were coffee and cookies. And I set up my puja. When you teach meditation, it's traditional. You give a ceremony of gratitude to the tradition. But anyway, I taught him, I gave him his mantra, and then I left him to meditate. And I went downstairs and I joined the others. And then 20 minutes passed, and that was his first meditation. I went up to get him out of his first meditation. The room was empty. So I came downstairs and said, has anyone still seen Bill? And with that, the door bursts open, and Bill comes rushing in, and he says, this thing works. He had gone down the kitchen stairs, and he had gotten out in the cold air, and he had terrible emphysema at the time. He came in, he said, this thing works because I took these breaths of cold air, and I should have been unable to do it. I said, Bill, it's your first time, take it easy. He said to me later, he said, I never understood the 11th step until I started TM. I said, what do you mean you don't understand it? It's the 11th step, you wrote it. He said, no, I didn't write it. It came to me as an inspiration. I wrote it, but I never understood it until I started transcending myself.
Okay, there's a lot packed into this. So first of all, tell our listeners who Lincoln Norton is.
Okay, well, Lincoln Norton is the man who taught Bill Wilson transcendental meditation, and he was involved with TM from 1966 all the way until today, and I consider him to be one of the most remarkable men that I've met on my walk in the earth.
So for those who may listen to our show that may be going, Monty, what are you doing? Can you give us a kind of a quick 101 on what TM really is and what it isn't?
Okay. Now, believe it or not, people have been trying to get in touch with the infinite long before Abraham.
Sure.
And, you know, the Abrahamic traditions have this wonderful internecine fight and all this good stuff about who's got what and where. And, you know, okay, cool. This particular, and they don't consider it to be the only way. But this particular form of meditation is over 4,000 years old, and it's a way of transcend. The reason it's called transcendental is it allows you to sink beneath your normal thought patterns, and it's an elegant practice. For those of you who want a Christian thing, unless you get real brand oriented, one of my mentors for many years, was a gentleman by the name of Thomas Keating. And there's a thing called the method of centering prayer. Uses pretty much the same way of doing it. It's twice a day.
Yeah, centering prayer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, if you know centering prayer, or if you want to know something that's similar or maybe conference approved from a different conference.
That's a good one, Jay.
This is a way that you can, a rabbit hole that you can go down with, and its central thing is the cloud of unknowing by. But anyway, but what it is it's a way of tapping into oneself and going below. Now, I'm not a TM practitioner, although I do practice Vedic meditation, which is from the same root, Gurudev, all that stuff. But and that's my current practice.
So let me ask you this. This isn't just emptying your mind so anything and everything can come in, right? This is more than just that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea that any human can empty their mind. I mean, one of the things that's really important, and Thomas said this, and anybody that's, and especially the folks within the TM, the mind is meant to think. The idea that somehow, of and by myself, I'm going to empty my mind.
Right.
You know, Buddhist friends that have been at it for 3,000 years, they call it the monkey mind. It's a reason. It's the beginner's mind. The thing is the relationship that we have with the thoughts.
Yeah.
See, the idea is the classic thing is the thoughts are like a boat on a river, and they come by. They come by. The meditation is we don't get on the boat. We don't engage with the thought. We just let the thought, and we don't judge what goes on in our mind while we have the practice. One of the wonderful things that and it's funny because you'll hear people from certain religious aspects say that they can't meditate because it's against their faith, and it's like,
it might be. It certainly isn't against Christianity. The Bible's filled with references to prayer and meditation.
Yeah, I mean, the be still and know. What more do you want?
Yeah.
Go Isaiah on them. Come on.
So maybe God was the first one to say, "Shut up and sit down. You got nothing to say. You need to listen."
One of the great lines of all time is God's first language is silence, and his second is laughter.
Yeah, I really like that.
If I'm with any spiritual teacher and they aren't laughing, I'm in the wrong room. Which is why, of course, the meetings are so wonderful. But anyway, back to the movie and this wonderful thing. So, what is it that I've been studying Wilson, and I'm an expert on his life outside of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's my jam. So I've been reading I've been studying closely for over 3 decades. I was fortunate enough to be the beta tester when we raised the money to digitize. We've digitized all of he and Lois's writings, and please don't leave this podcast without writing this down. steppingstones.org/archive. You can do something that no historian could do 7 years ago. You can literally go to this website. They've got over 1,000 of Bill and Lois's writings that you can go and click on, read, and meditate on. You can actually read that stuff. You don't need experts anymore. See, this is the great thing about what we've been able to accomplish. You get to have your own relationship with this information.
So that's steppingstones.org/archives, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're on our video feed, it's coming up right now, listeners, on our video feed. Please write that down, steppingstones.org/archives. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, so one of the great things is so I've been reading all this stuff all these years, right? I've read all the AA history. I've read everything. Never was there anything about transcendental meditation in any of the AA Coda. It was like when you were introducing me, you said, it appears. No, it's been proven now. No more appearance. And it's a marvelous thing. So anyway, as a historian, I can't use something as fact until I've got two independent sources.
Gotcha.
So we start, Sally Korbacherko and I start doing some stuff, and we find out that, you know, over the years that we've heard about TM and Bill, and there are people within the Transcendental Meditation movement that had talked about it, but we didn't have any independent verification. But it's a beautiful anecdote. I'm a guy from the 60s. I remember, you know, all this stuff. So Wilson, so it's a great anecdote. So what I do is that I make a slide in my PowerPoint, and I have a picture of Bill and I have a picture of the Maharishi. And I say, you know, we don't know that this is true, but this is just some stuff that's common. I think it's a lovely anecdote, thinking about Bill at the end of his life, turning to look for another practice to get in touch with whatever it is that saved his life. I'm in Texas. I'm in Brownwood, Texas. I mean, the only reason that God created Brownwood, Texas, is so that people could expend karmic debt. You know, I mean,
Wow.
so anyway, I'm down there, and there's a lot of lovely people that have been there, and you know, a lot of great work that goes on there. But anyway, so I'm down there, and I give this talk, and I get down off the podium, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "My dad taught Bill Wilson TM. Manna from heaven." And then he says, "Would you like to meet my father?" And I'm thinking, oh, come on, what geriatric ward am I going to end up? You know, 1969.
Right.
You know, blah, 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 blah. Bang, I call this guy up. He's and you'll see in the movie, he's a wonderful man. And I call him up, and we hit it off, and I run up to meet him a few weeks later. I fly out to Connecticut, and we sit down, and he tells me the story. So I call up to Stepping Stones, and I say, "Look, we got real new historical breakthrough. May I bring him up, and we'll get my iPad, and we'll just interview him. We'll ask a few questions." What an amazing gift! My beloved Janine, she says that this story has been circulating in the ether for 50 years. And then it looked down one day and said, "Oh, there's Jay. He can pull this off."
Which you have done.
Which I've done. So anyway, I go and I meet this guy, and we're going to go up to Stepping Stones. And then I start thinking, now I'm really close friends with Kevin Hanlon, the man who made, oh, well, not close friends. We were good acquaintances. Bill W., the creative force behind Alcoholics Anonymous. If you haven't seen this film, it's a wonderful biographical documentary about the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I know the guy. I got his phone number in my pocket. I got the best phone in the world. I got everybody. I got Schroeder's number. I got Berger's. Anyway, I call.
Yeah, we got numbers, brother. We got numbers.
I call Hanlon up, and I go, what are you doing? Can you bring in? We can do a 3-camera shoot. So now I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe $10,000 to do a 5-7 minute thing on the Stepping Stones website. Well, we start getting into this thing, and Kevin said to me early on, he said, when I said, "Well, how long do you think we should do this?" He said, "The story will tell us. We just follow what the story tells us." And the story ended up being, you know, over $200,000 and an hour long. But the thing is that it's first class. We didn't worry about any, you know, like I said, we bet the house that you see on it, and to be able to make it something that would be, see, when we got started, the Stepping Stones Foundation asked if we could make this a joint venture. So what we're able to do for you is to show you, let you into Bill's studio, let you see it in the light, the way that he saw it. Do see the house, see the property, see the collections and ways. We haven't sat down and gone through it yet, but we got, a couple hundred maybe photographs that have never been seen outside the collection. Now, it's not because anybody's hiding it, but just there's never been any way for them to show this stuff. And so now we've got this montage of stepping stones. It's only like a minute and 12 seconds of all these photos from the 40s when they moved in. And so we've got this available so that you can have a more robust relationship with one of the great men that's ever walked the earth.
Amen. Amen. Listeners, we're talking to Jay Stennett. He's the producer of this new documentary, Bill W. Conscious Contact. The website is billwconsciouscontact.com. Also, please visit steppingstones.org/archives for even more. So I have a question for you here. And I've been toying whether to ask you this or not, and I'm just going to go ahead and ask you. So is one of the reasons, if you even thought this way, I don't know, that this documentary doesn't really focus on Bill W.'s relationship with the God of the Bible so much? Is it because there's already a ton of that out there, and this is something there really isn't that much out there? Or is there another reason why you didn't get into that?
Okay, well, Monty, first of all, I have a deep and abiding respect for Jesus, but there have been people that had an agenda that put out a lot of stuff about Wilson and about the spiritual antecedents of Alcoholics Anonymous and about the history of this great experiment that just flat aren't true.
Can you give me an example? Because I'm learning too.
No, I'm going there.
Okay.
I'm going there. But so this noble experiment, Alcoholics Anonymous, there are people who want it to be a Christian organization. Well, that's wonderful. But Bill wrote quite early on, when I saw the results of the missions, I could not be impressed. When I saw the results of the missions, I could not be impressed. If, the way I look at it, if Jesus wants it, you don't have a chance. He's at some point you're going to get smacked upside of the head. The thing is that Alcoholics Anonymous was created specifically. The book was written specifically so that people would not get sidetracked by the brand.
I get that, but it doesn't negate the fact that it's just separate. I'm getting to a point in my own for lack of a better term, Christian walk, where I'm getting a little irritated even with the term Christianity, and people ask me, well, what do you believe? I say, I follow Jesus. I don't even say I'm a Christian because it's got such a bad.
Well, but anyway, so so the thing is, there was nothing, this is about the experience that Wilson had, and about him being a seeker all the way along. Now, one of the things that he did was he went down a couple different wormholes, and one of his great mentors happened to be a Jesuit, and you hang out with Jesuits and you learn some really wonderful practices. But Wilson says in a couple different letters that he couldn't identify with his friend's faith because he couldn't swallow the infallibility action, the infallibility of the Pope. He said, I may end up being actually more a Protestant, which, saying that at the time. Now, another thing you have to understand, listeners, is that when I was a young man, if a Catholic kissed a Lutheran,
look out.
Okay. Now, and in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, as Bill's consciousness is evolving, one of the things is that these different brands all had their brand. And if you didn't buy in 100% with the brand, you could not call yourself a Catholic, a Lutheran, an Episcopalian, a Christian. You had to buy the whole package.
Don't you think that's different today, though?
No, it's completely different. It's completely different. And Alcoholics Anonymous, the evolution of the consciousness that comes from the Oxford group.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, that they are not what it is that's in there in the literature any more than AA. You read the Oxford group literature, or you read Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to think we're all a bunch of religious prigs.
So, one of the stories that has been removed out of the big book, which I wish they hadn't, is the story.
There is no they. It's we.
Okay, you just say I didn't do this, but
well, your representatives did.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on so-called representatives of New York and that. That's a whole nother. We could do a whole other show on that,
now, brother.
But the story of Al G. I mean, Clarence. I mean, he was even going to pay Clarence to quit writing his case and quit showing up at the tavern and trying to convert him and all this stuff. And he shows up. He goes home and he shows up, and there's Clarence and there's Bill, and he asks Bill, "Okay, what's the answer to this? How come this thing works?" And Bill points to a picture of Jesus, the famous painting at the Garden of Gethsemane, and says, "There it is." Now, that was Bill's answer, but he isn't pointing to a church. He's not pointing to a denomination. He's pointing to who he believed was the God who is God, Jesus Christ. So I look at that and I think, why did they take that out of the big book? Or why did we take it out of the big book?
The reason that the literature changes edition to edition is that we want the book to be comprehensible to people that are coming in.
I don't have a problem with that, Jay. What I have a problem with is removing important pieces that are...
No. But see, what's important to you may not be important to somebody else.
Well, you're just ruining my day.
Well, you invited me in.
I know, right?
Now, I want to tell you something. It's not in this. It's not in the Barger letter, but in another letter that Bill says, when he's describing the writing of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, he says that why would we write such a book that wasn't religious in nature? Why would we do that? And he said, because there's already a Christian solution available to people all over.
Gotcha.
Okay? Now, he said, within the book, when we were writing the book, and really there's only 3 people that are involved in writing the book. Akron had nothing to do with anything, the book at all. They wanted nothing to do with it. Is Hank Parkhurst, William Griffith Wilson, and our Southern friend. And now his name just fell out of my brain. I can't believe that. Anyway, who was an Episcopalian...
you mean Shoemaker?
I'm sorry?
Shoemaker?
No. Shoemaker didn't have anything to do with writing the book.
No, I didn't think so. No.
but anyway, he says that the name will come in a minute. But anyway, what he says is that you'll notice that in the writing of the book, Christ is only mentioned once. He says there's nothing about, and he says he says in some of the stories, the personal stories, people will talk about that, but that's their personal stories. He said, in my experience, so he's talking about in his spiritual experience, he said, I got no information about the divinity of Christ. He said, I don't know if Jesus is 99% God, or he said I had no information on the Trinity, on the virgin birth, or any of that.
Where does he write that, Jay?
It's in a response to a letter by you know what? Do you want me to pull it up?
No, you don't need to, but I would be interested maybe at sometime when you have a moment, email me that resource, because people ask me these things. I want to have an answer for them.
See, I can't give. So it's in a letter, the second letter written to a guy in Florida or not Florida, in Australia, who asked Bill about the use of the Lord's Prayer. And the first letter is so much of the stuff is all hidden in conference-approved literature. But if you look in the language of the heart,
yes,
there's a little piece on the Lord's Prayer in there, and it's a letter. But I don't believe the second letter's in there, because in the second letter, Bill gets a little more expansive about what his experience was, and these people are saying, look, we gotta, if Jesus isn't in the meeting, it's not a meeting, and he's going.
Well, that's yeah.
Okay, but it's a real. It's a tradition within Alcoholics Anonymous that needs to be respected, but those that are insisting that it's the only way to go also have to realize that AA is responsible for, and I'm not talking about the organization, I'm talking about you and me.
Mm-hmm.
We vote in our meetings, formats that we create and the like, is that that when the courts say AA is a religion,
right,
they're absolutely correct.
Yep.
We walk like a duck, we talk like a duck.
Yep.
We and it's because we slavishly follow a 1950s consciousness that Bill wanted us to get away from.
Well.
But back to the he wanted AA to evolve, and that's one of the things that we talk about in the movie. This is a fun thing. Here's a really fun thing.
So I want to share real quick. We're running out of time, and I want to give you time for some closing thoughts here, and then maybe we can pick up this interview at another date and do a part two, because I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by it. But I got to tell you this little story. So there was this old codger years ago, who it was at a smoke break, and he goes, "I hate organized religion," and I heard him say that a million times, and so I asked him. I said, "So what is it that you hate about it?" He goes, "Well, I don't really hate it." And I go, "Well, that's what you said." I said, I'm just curious. No judgment here. I'm just curious. What do you hate about it?" He goes, "Well, I hate that they always demand money. Every time they meet, they want money." I said, Okay. I said, "What else?" He goes, "I hate that they say that there's only one book to go by, and they pound it on the pulpit, and that's the only way to go. And if you don't go that way, you're going to burn, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Okay, anything else?" He said, "Yeah, I don't like the candlelight ceremony meetings at night that we have around here. I don't like that pomp and circumstance." I said, "You're describing a typical AA meeting, at least a speaker meeting. And you're the guy that says, if you can't put $1 in the basket, you shouldn't even be here." I'm saying, What you just described to me was organized religion.
Yeah.
Or at least by definition of what you're saying.
Yeah. And
He didn't appreciate my humor, brother.
Yeah. No. You were very accurate. And one of the things I want to say, just Monty, for those of you who want real live infusion of Christian consciousness in your program, I don't know if anybody's gone down this wormhole with you. I see that you got the stuff from the Salvation Army all over the site. My home group, we have a thing at the Sally. I love the Sally.
Yeah.
But there's a book called God in the Slums by Hugh Redwood that is so close to the stories in the big book. And you go back, and it's the starting of it's the story of the founding of the Salvation Army. There's God in the Slums and God in the Shadows. They're wonderful books.
Wow.
If you haven't read them, you'd have a great time with a Christian-oriented book study using those books. You'd have a great time with it. So I just want you to know that I believe, for me, that part of my mission within the fellowship is to make it so that everybody is welcome. Everybody can, and I'm not talking about taking God out of it, but over the years, I've worked with lots and lots of people, and their spouses think that what AA is some kind of Trojan horse to try and get them to accept some kind of Christian consciousness.
To convert or something. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of people that think AA is a cult. There's a whole bunch of people that think AA is a Christian ministry. There's everything in between. And it's our job to kind of clear the air here. I'm the first guy in a meeting. If somebody, and this hasn't happened in a long time, but I remember a guy mentioning, he was being very higher power specific, and he was mentioning that grandfather, which is a terminology in Native American culture, the grandfather was his higher power. And this lady interrupted him and says, we're not specific about who our higher power is in meetings. And at the break, I told her, I said, look, that's that gentleman's experience. She goes, well, aren't you a Christian? I go, yeah. And I'll defend his right in the United States of America in an AA meeting to say who his higher power is all day long. Right. Leave that guy alone, just like he should leave you alone. And so I'm all, I get a little incensed when people try to shut people down like that.
So back to the thing about literature, I think we should get out of the publishing business.
There's a lot of people that would agree with you.
Let's if somebody writes in and says, I want a big book with no mail attribution from electronic publishing, we should be able to do that and send it to them right now. I want this, I want that. Who cares? Spiritual principles. Mm-hmm. What sets Alcoholics Anonymous different from, we can talk about all the religions we want. The ninth step is what separates AA from everything. Nobody else, you go into any church, any other spiritual path, they aren't going to tell you, no, you go back and you pay back all the money. You go look the people dead in the eye whose trust you violated.
Unless the church leadership happens to be steeped in AA traditions too, because some of them are. I know a lot of pastors that come out of our program.
Yeah, but really, let's talk about, if we're talking about, consciousness. So anyway, so those of you who are listening, who are these guys banging back and forth? And we've gone all over, and we haven't really talked a lot about the background of this film and its intent, which is to show Bill Wilson's spiritual evolution and to do anything that I possibly can to encourage people to grow along spiritual lines. Now, Wilson was, we go about this thing about literature, right? We'll say, and we're not changing the big book. We will never change 164 and the stuff because it can't be done. Three quarters. It takes three quarters of the assemblage, and,
Well, yeah, that's
you
another
can't
show about what has happened recently, but
Well,
let's
I'll
not
tell
go
you.
there yet. We can do that
Okay,
at another time.
that's the third show.
Yeah, right, right. Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I'm gonna lay a little something on you. So just for fun, right?
Okay,
Say that the book was going to be changed. Now all of us would get together and we'd say, well, there are some things that just can't be changed, right?
Sure,
Well, one of them, of course, would be the third step prayer.
sure.
Of course. Okay, so Wilson was always wanted the book to be something that evolved. He didn't want it to be frozen in time. And he also knew that he'd get thrown out of AA if he did anything about it. So in this book, The AA Way of Life, also known as Bill Sees It, which many of you have as piece in your literature.
Absolutely.
If you look at page 210, it's called Out of Bondage. And you read it, and there's a third step prayer. Wilson changed the third step prayer. Wilson changed the third step prayer. Now, of course, in the book, it says the wording was, of course, quite optional. But anyway, what he says here, though, is that instead of take away my difficulties, that victory over them, Mary bear witness to those.
Sure.
It says, take away my difficulties, that my transcendence over them may bear witness.
Which most literally could be translated into, if I'm transcendent over them, I've got victory now.
Well, victory is, to me, is a military term.
Oh, over the battle, right? Yeah.
And if you've been sober now, Wilson changed this prayer in 1963. If you're sober 40 years, there's some battles, or 25 years or some stuff. There's some battles that you lose and win, and then you lose again and you win again, and la-di-da-di-da. So it makes it sound like it's this thing that's going to stay. Consciousness doesn't stay. It has to either evolve or erode. Transcendence to me is entirely different than victory. Transcendence is about having a relationship with what's going on, seeing it, and changing my mind and my actions as each moment comes.
Interesting. I got to chew on that one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Show 4.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Bill W. ConsciousContact.com is the website to access this new documentary. I'd encourage you to do so. Please, listeners, if you go and do this, or when you go and do this, please email me at take12radio@comcast.net. That's TAKE, the number 12, radio@comcast.net. And let me know your thoughts. I am sure Jay would receive any comments. You could comment on this podcast or this video feed.
Yeah, or you can reach me. My telephone number is 310-874-2341. Usually when I'm on a Zoom, it's at the base of my thing, so that people can contact me, because I want to be.
There you go. You don't get that from a lot of people that have been on our show. That's his phone number, folks. Wow. Jay Stennett has been our guest. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I do look forward to doing some more with you. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for everything you're doing for everyone. And please, we didn't really get into a lot about what we we started to. We got sidetracked
That happens.
with. Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we have conversation.
Right.
But the spirit is wide and expansive, and ultimately, we all will get to a place where we will see fully, and
There you go.
so there.
Yes. All righty. My friends, our closing songs, I promised you a closing song, is by John McAndrew, and it's appropriately entitled, Give Me New Eyes. Here's John.
Trying to understand all the suffering, the misery that man goes through. And where were you when we needed you? And how come I didn't get what I needed? How could you let them treat me that way? And where were you when I needed you? Black clouds come over me, they darken my skies. If it's how I look at things, you give me new eyes. Well, people are killing, they'll do anything. Fill their bodies with poison things just to feel good. Just to feel good. Must everything I learned be so hard? Can't you see I'm giving up? I don't know where you are. Where are you? Oh, when black clouds come over me, they darken my skies. If it's how I look at things, they give me new eyes. It's just that I need you. Oh, when black clouds come over me, they darken my skies. If it's how I look at things, they give me new eyes. Oh, if it's how I look at things, they give me new eyes. When black clouds come over me, they darken my skies. So give me new eyes. For today, give me new eyes.
recovery music of Mr. John McAndrew. And let me see if I can. There, my board is working again. Listen, please visit the website, BillWConsciousContact.com, and take a view at this documentary. I promise you will not be disappointed. Jay Stennett, the producer, has been my guest. A very special and hearty thank you to Jay. And you can access his personal phone number. He gave it out to you. Go back, rewind. Well, heck, I'll just give it out one more time. 310-874-2341. He wants to hear from you. He wants to know your thoughts. And that is something we definitely appreciate here at Take 12 Radio. What's he saying? I got to unmute him. What are you saying there, Jay?
I don't want to know your thoughts. If you have a question...
Okay, he doesn't want to know your thoughts. If you got a question, ask him a question.
Remember, in the fellowships, we never have a problem if we share our experiences. Only our opinions are.
I stand corrected. Until next time, this is the Monty Man, along with Jay Stennett, my host this week on this very special Friday edition, and the rest of the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for each and every one of you.
Don't let the weights of the past keep you down. There's a melody here to turn it around. In each story and song you'll find a friend, a chorus of courage that'll never end.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.